You don't get paid in exposure, so stop f***ing acting like it. Most artists are screwing up their collaborations. Either they're not doing it at all, or they're doing it wrong. They're giving away value for nothing and thinking that a collab just means throwing verses on each other's songs. This video is a real-world blueprint for what actually helps you grow with collaboration. We're going to talk about why clicks work and why they've always been a thing, why clear split sheets are a non-negotiable, the difference between good and shit collaborations, how to handle royalty splits based on your exact situation, why proper collaboration is permanent fan conversion, and why sometimes you should just walk away. So first off, let's talk about why even bother with collaboration. Collaboration has to be the fastest way to grow. Getting your name on someone else's page and getting access to someone else's already warm audience is going to have the highest conversion on your own numbers. Assuming you're collaborating with someone who's in your sphere, who has already built trust with this community, by them bringing you into their page, onto their work as a musician, there is inferred trust between this warm audience and you. And that makes it much more likely for these people to convert into fans of yours. And this is why clicks work. If you have a group of good friends and you guys are constantly putting out music, it only takes one of you to lift off, go from here, to allow the others a spot on their page. And what we see is just this constant boosting effect that people and clicks have on each other. So if you've been with Homeboy since day dot and Homeboy gets a hit, you best bet your ass, if you've picked the guys well, that he's going to give you a shot. You just got to put out the best song you've ever written and you got to promote it professionally with them. We'll get to that in a minute. So now let's imagine that you have 20 artists who you are great friends with. If you have 100 artists who you have a solid connection with, who will do this thing for you, it's kind of impossible to not see yourself going places, is it? And it's even bigger than that. By getting your name on someone else's record, on their Spotify page, on their Apple Music page, on their SoundCloud, on their YouTube channel, unless something terrible happens in the relationship and the music gets taken down, it's there no matter where they go from there. Whatever future expansion they have into music, into different genres, working with other artists, whatever fans they garner over the course of their career, those fans who listen back through their work, who are super fans, who are the most likely to convert to your stuff, to also become a fan of you, I should say, your name is forever there for them to stumble upon you one day. And you get this trickle-in effect as well, that their warm audience already brings in as they gain momentum over time, right? Assuming they gain momentum over time. But again, if we're talking about numbers, we're talking about you've done this with 100 different artists. It only takes one of them. It only takes two of them. It only takes 5 of them. 5% of these guys to actually be serious, if they've already made it to a point where you're starting to see returns and conversion, I think that's reasonable. So let's talk about the goals and unwritten rules of collaboration. The first one is the most important, which I see a lot of people just completely disregard. And that's that there's no pressure to ever release anything, because there's multiple people involved in the process and we're all expecting work to be put in for a considerable amount of time afterwards. There is no pressure to ever release a collaborative project, right? There is no pressure to cross that threshold and say, if you think the verse Old Mate Laid is dog water, right, and you don't want to release it and they think it's awesome, you don't have to release it. And that goes in with the second unwritten rule, which is you put friends and relationships and good music before everything else, right? You put it before money, you put it before splits, you put it before advertising arrangements, you put it before everything, literally everything. And that's one of the reasons that there's no pressure to ever release something, because that can destroy a musical relationship. Right? You can't be collaborating with people who you can't sit down with and say, hey, I don't want to release this because it goes against XYZ of my brand. I don't want to release this because I feel like I was shit, or I don't want to release this because I feel like you were shit. If you're not collaborating with people who can take that type of feedback, then that's one of the signs that you need to be collaborating with different people. Second unwritten rule is that in collaboration, there is no place for tall poppy syndrome. And I don't know if this is local to Australia, but man, it's bad around here. When people, other musicians, friends, just generally in life, honestly, see you getting traction, see you getting momentum, see you building something, you will notice an attitude change. The ones who you want to be collaborating with and the ones that you want to be friends with and maintain a musical relationship with, maintain a working relationship with, maintain any type of relationship with, are the ones who are able to celebrate your wins in the same way they feel your losses. If someone feels your losses to a greater extent to which they celebrate your wins, it doesn't mean they're someone to be completely disregarded, but they're probably not someone you want in your creative foxhole, so to speak. So with that said, your name and their name must be equally spread. Exposure must be equally spread when you release a song collaboratively. A lot of times I see artists pay for a feature, their name doesn't go on a Spotify page. I wonder why they've paid for the feature. They don't get anything from it, right? The other guy doesn't advertise it. You need to be willing to advertise with not the same efficacy, but the same effort. You both just need to do what you're best at, and you need to do it to an extent where nobody feels like they're getting fucked, right? I hate being the guy in a collaborative process where I'm the guy doing the ads, I'm the guy promoting it on my end, I'm the guy doing XYZ, and they've just put the song out. That ensures that I never want to work with you again. And another one, this goes back to relationships, is the goal of a collaboration is to build a relationship on reciprocity. You want to focus on moving the needle of your career using these resources and have them at your disposal again and again and again and again. You get that through reciprocity, right? We're talking about a long-term career. That's what I preach over here, is long-term sustainability. And you don't get that by being a greedy fucker. I'm sorry, you don't get that by being a greedy fucker. It takes time, and it takes a long, long time. But that is truly how you hit the exponential growth. So those are the goals out the way. Let's talk about good versus bad collaboration. An example of good collaboration is you and Homeboy make a song. You both love the song. You're both going to put it out there. Before you put out the song, you sit down, you're like, hey, bro, I know we didn't have this discussion beforehand. And again, because there's no pressure to ever release a song, let's do a split sheet. We both just fucked around with it. Let's go 50-50 on whatever, both mechanical and publishing royalties. I'll talk about royalties in a minute. Let's get together and shoot some content and make some ads. We can just run one ad set, post it on both of our pages. Go nuts. That's good collaboration. You're both going in there. You both made a song. You both liked it. You both agreed on splits. If you didn't, that's cool. We don't have to put it out, or you can reconsider and you can negotiate. But I don't think if you're making a song with your friend, you should be negotiating about money. You just split it down the middle, obviously. An example of bad collaboration. You pay an artist for a feature. I've seen this a lot. They don't give the song a placement on their page. They don't engage in promotion and advertising. And what they expect from taking your money and giving you a verse over a beat that you've sent them is that their name is going to carry enough weight to make the bands that you've dropped on that collaboration worth it. Rarely have I ever seen that happen. Just doesn't fucking happen, right? Unless that artist is a huge artist, in which case they carry huge costs. So generally, with paying for collaborations, I just don't. I work with people who I have a relationship with. And if people want to work with me, it's up to them to come and start building a relationship with me. So between these two examples, the big difference is that one of them has equal skin in the game. One has no pressure to produce because it was made between two friends before even being considered to release. And the other one does because you paid someone to make this verse. So there's pressure involved in releasing this song. A good collaboration will always come out seeing both parties more valuable than they were before. Whether the song's released or not, every collaboration where you don't come out of the studio or out of the mixing session or out of the production session or the writing session better off than when you went into it is not a good collaboration. Let's have a discussion about royalties real quick, because that's something that we all need to understand. The first one is the mastering royalties. This is the percentage of money that you get from streaming, licensing, and selling the master. These splits will generally occur between the artist, the producer, the distributor, and the label, if there's a label involved. The other type we have over here is the publishing royalties. These represent the percentage of income that you get from the use of the composition or arrangement. This is talking about the lyrics, the chords, and the melody, and is completely irrelevant of who performed it. And where I've seen people get confused between these two definitions is when they don't recognize that one platform can generate both mastering and publishing royalties. So now that we know what type of royalties there are and where they come from, what do good splits look like? The TLDR is whatever you agree on beforehand, right? It can be anything. But I do have a long form answer. In my experience, there's a few different ways we cut up splits in this sort of indie and entrepreneurial space of music, and it generally comes down to how many people have touched the song. We'll start talking about just one-on-one work. So you're an artist and you've gone and worked with a producer. It really depends, number one, who you're seeing, and they can charge anything. But what I consider to be reasonable for something like a mix and master, let's say you've done all the composition, arrangement, you have the beat, you've written the lyrics, you've got it recorded, you just need it to be mixed and mastered. I've seen those go for a flat fee, obviously, and then 0 to 15% generally. People do more than that. But where I see most artists being comfortable with and where nobody feels like they're being shafted is flat fee, 0 to 15% on the mixing end. Often, if you're not comfortable with the 0 to 15%, you can just ask the producer for a buyout, which means how much more would I have to pay you for this project in order for you to not take anything on the back end. I get it. The first time I heard that, I was like, wait on, so you're charging me up front and I have to give you money if I ever start making money. It's like, yeah, that's how it works. That's just the game we're in. I'm sorry. So if the producer is in charge of mixing, mastering, composition, instrumentation, your vocal editing, you guys should content while you're in there. You better be giving that cunt what he asks for and 50% of the fucking song, right? Because what that does is it opens up the potentiality, if you pick a good producer and someone you really vibe with, to not pay that up front 6 months down the road. You just walk in and send him a text because you guys have a great relationship. Right. And again, you're not building this relationship to get to this goal. This is the outcome of not being a shit cunt. Right. I've seen it. Fuck, I've done it. Right. This is just what happens when you do the thing properly and you treat people well, is they want you to be around. They see value in you and they're willing to put value into you, assuming they're good people and only work with good people. So that's the assumption here. And you know how much money that saves you down the line? When you're not paying $1,000 for a mix, you just like have a single once a month and you just send it off to him and he mixes it because it's only like 2 days to mix, but you're paying for the ear and you're paying for the skills and the expertise, right? Might take him 2 days, but you save yourself $1,000 every single month. And that is more valuable than 50% when you're first starting because it allows you to put money elsewhere. That's why it's more valuable. It's not like, yeah, you lose money in the long run, but it allows you to generate money for the long run. Because you have that $1,000 a month that you can now put into a fucking ad, right? You can put that into content. You can put that into upgrading whatever you need to upgrade, getting better skills, meeting more people, right? Put it wherever you want. Okay, so the only time we really talk about publishing and mastering royalties, differentiate between them in this indie sphere of music, where I'm from, is when we're talking about bands or multiple people who are in charge of the composition but don't really touch the mixing, right? So this is the situation where you have a band and you send your stuff off to go get mixed by a producer, okay? You guys are in charge of the composition, the making of the songs, you come up with all the melodies, you record your stuff, get it all together, send it off to a producer. So in these type of engagements, we are looking at differentiating between the production and the mastering splits. So in the case of the band, the producer and the mastering royalties, we give the producer his percentage of the master, 0 to 15 generally, as I said before, and the rest of those mastering royalties are divided equally amongst the bandmates. So then we look at the publishing royalties. These will always get split equally amongst the people who have worked on the composition of the song. Generally, with bandmates, it is an equal split no matter what. This is how it works in the entrepreneurial indie space of music. This is how everybody walks away at the end of the day wanting to come back tomorrow and consistently output work. And simply the most effective way to drive a machine with multiple cogs forward is to have them all working and wanting to work, right? Everybody knows their value. Everybody gets what they're owed at the end of the day and everybody has a reason to show up tomorrow. There is this method of splits that I've heard of where everybody in the room, no matter what they've contributed to the song, gets an equal split over publishing and mastering royalties. I'm just going to say I'm not a huge fan of that and leave it there. Okay, and PSA, final point. Sometimes it just don't work out and you need to be willing to walk away. As I said before in the unwritten rules, you don't need to release everything that you collaborate on with other people. There is no pressure to release anything at all, ever. Sometimes you miss the mark. I know I have in collaborations. Sometimes the other dude will shit the bed. but dealing with the regret of putting out something that completely misrepresents like you and what you want to deliver and have on your portfolio permanently is a greater pain than just sitting down and going, hey dude, let's rework this. I don't want to release it as it is for XYZ reason. So yeah, never be afraid to say no to a track as well. If they crack the shits, good riddance. Nothing much else to be said. Okay, and a quick side note, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here, but if you're not generating money from your music, you have no leverage with splits. You do not ask people to work for free with you for splits. You do not talk about your splits as if they're a thing, as if they are ever going to be a thing until they are a thing, okay? You never, ever, ever promise splits that may never come, okay? The types of artists who do this, producers hate this shit. People who know their value hate this shit, right? You will forever be stuck working with the bottom of the barrel. The new guys, the come-ups, the entry-level dudes. And you know what? Occasionally you'll hit a gold mine, right? You'll hit this guy where it's like, holy shit, I can't believe he wanted to work with me for free. He's got so many skills. This guy's a great producer. Won't last very long because he's going to out-level you. Right? And there's just no value that you're providing because the types of people who are asking for that, and you got to sit down and ask if this is you. The types of people who are asking for others to work with them for free because of some future fucking fantasy they have, generally have no clue what they're in for. I'm sorry, but if those guys who are running around saying, oh dude, nah, let's talk about splits, I'm going to be huge in a year. Just go find a producer, buddy. He'll have messages from these dudes, right? He will have messages from these guys and look at their content and it'll tell you all you need to know, okay? People who open a conversation with that and open a relationship with that are not worth your time, and they'll never be worth your time, and they'll be forever stuck working with just the new guys who don't really know what they're doing, or the other guys who don't have a reputation because they burnt it for one reason or another. Everyone else, the rest of us in music, have seen a million of you guys come before, and we expect to see a million more before we're finished, right? Because that's just the majority. For some reason, that's at least the majority of those who speak. The rest of them are quietly working. So with that said, if you enjoyed what I said today, if it was real, if you have friends who can benefit from this type of talk and this type of discussion, share it with them, like, subscribe, drop a comment on your thoughts if you think I'm just talking out my ass. I'll see you in the next one.